Welcome to the first Work with Cubicle Instagram live recap, or as I like to call it, get to the point drunk lady. Today we'll be working with Adobe Photoshop artboards and designing for Instagram stories. So let's go learn about them layers. That's what she said. That's what he said. Yay! Okay, the point of our artboards is simple. Now, artboards used to exist in Adobe Illustrator, way before Photoshop, and this was actually introduced for the fact that Adobe wanted users to be able to use different canvases at the same time. If you were retouching a photograph and the client wanted a brick wall instead of a cement wall in the background, so you would just open a new artboard and you would work almost at the same time so that you can compare in one screen. I think they also introduced unknowingly the best way of creating Instagram stories or any storyboarding basically. Okay, now when you open a new document, and you simply do this by going up to File, New, you'll see this. Now this will be different from your older Photoshops, which has a legacy box, which looks like, oh, I can't really toggle it, but you know what it looks like. It used to be small, but now you have all these options, and it basically don't even have to, it's like flying an airplane. You don't have to do anything. You just press buttons and it lands for you. When I start designing Instagram stories, I like using this prefix. Wow, this function here. Up here, there's a mobile tab, and we have iPhone X, iPhone 876 Plus, iPhone 876, normal iPhones, the smaller ones. I tend to go for the iPhone 8 Plus because that's sort of a universal screen resolution for the iPhone. iPhone X is a little too long, I find, and that should just give you a size. I would write it down. Like, this is something that you should remember just off the top of your head if you're designing Instagram stories a lot, like I do for my private channels when I like to share the new moles that I have in my body. This is what I like to use. 1242 by 2208. I'm hearing my voice like 3 times. Please forgive me if I sound a little bit insane. And then yeah, this is the magical button here. You have to click on artboards, and that's it. Okay, so 1242, 2208, make sure you click on the artboards and the background contents. I like doing white, but it could be any other color. Whatever color you choose, it'll always be transparent. Okay, let's open this. Now you will see here on the right side, under the layer tab. Now if you don't see this layer tab, you just go up to Windows and then toggle layers, and that's all you have to do. You have to open up layers. The first layer is just built in for you, and you will see inside here, because it's checkerboarded, it is transparent. Just because it's white here doesn't mean that the layer is white. Now this is very important for you to understand, because when you export this, it'll export as a transparent PNG if you forget that it's white. Sorry, if you forget that it's transparent. Maybe I should have a glass of wine. You know, you will also experience my progressional, wow, I can't even speak anymore. Progressive downfall, and also progressive red Asian flush. But that's entertainment for you. If you have the the artboards open, I'm actually taking this a little slower for those who might not be as professional as me, because I know how to make my husband in Photoshop. This is exactly how I conjured it up via Photoshop. And I also paid an actor to be one. My husband, that is. We have an artboard here. This means we can drop anything in. And now I like to already go in and name this artboard 01, because Instagram stories, you have to remember that it is not a swipe-based interaction. Instagram stories user experience, we shorten it to UX. User experience is tap-based experience, so it's quite similar to film where you see multiple frames happening at the same frames in progression. So just think of Instagram stories as tap-based frame after frame progression instead of like a magazine slide. I would start by going in and naming your layer first to 01 to symbolize first layer or first slide. I'm gonna call it slides from now on, but doesn't mean I'm talking about pool slides. I'm talking about picture slides. Now, the story that I want to build is off of one of my favorite stories that we shot in Rome. I saved it here. It's called Ciak. Ciak is Italian for clap, from what I remember. Now, Ciak is the title of the story. And these are all my files. These are all the high-res images that come out of the photo shoot. This story starts with a typography title called Ciak. Now this Ciak is in a typeface called Cigar. Now I'm gonna pop that in here. I use typeface here, type tool. You just have to click that, pop a box in here, increase the font size like so. If you hover over the actual icon, you can just you can swipe up. Now what's important in an Instagram stories is the fact that this top bar here, mark it with red. Now remember, in Instagram you're gonna want to kind of avoid putting important information in these areas, or just something that draws your eyes at the very top or the bottom. So this is something just to remember off the top of your head. Now basically what you wouldn't do is put this here. So I will start with this. Now what's amazing about artboards is that when you create another artboard, which is done here, so over at 01, you just click on Command J or Control J if you're on PC, and it creates another one. See? And this is how you grow your artboards. Can you see? 01, 02, 03. I don't really like this typography treatment to begin with. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna give it a little more treatment. And now you can follow on if you want with any font that you find. Now what I'm doing is I'm increasing the letter spacing, line height. And finding like a good sweet spot. Yeah, that looks good. Just start like this. And I really like big typography because that's what she said. Yeah, no? Photography. But this is all dependent on what you want to put in your stories. Where do I get my fonts from? So good places for fonts is dafonts.com. These are all free and you can really choose. Okay, and this I can actually really zoom into because it's a browser. You can really choose what kind of fonts you want, right? Roman, and you can place your text there. That's what she said. And you can see how the fonts render, which is great. So you just download it, and you download a couple viruses at the same time, and you install it. Install font. Okay, here we go. And then this could be a whole other font. There we go. That already looks cool. Does it? Does it look cool? Actually, it does. It looks like a cutout of some sort. Yeah, fun. DaFont is one. Another one is myfonts.com. I think it's myfonts. Let's see if that works. Yeah, myfonts.com and fonts.com. Fonts.com. And if you have Creative Cloud, and I hate plugging this all the time because I don't get paid by Creative Cloud. If you have Creative Cloud, you also have access to a lot of fonts and they're free. Here, resource links. See here? Oh, and of course you have Google fonts. I personally like finding different foundries that are not within these different outlets. Okay, Command J, drag all of this up to the second slide, and that's it. Now what I like doing, a little trick that I like doing here, is because the same information appears on the second slide, I'm just gonna have another element pop out here. So let's find what the excerpt of this was. Here we go. I'm gonna copy paste. Okay, I'm gonna do all the typography work. Maybe it'll be left alone because I think because the title is leaning to the left, we don't want this to be center because this kind of displaces everything, doesn't it? This putting it to the right side could also be fun, but that's also a little bit displacing in it. Another thing I wanted to mention, now this might come in a different lesson because typography is a whole other beast that I don't want to teach because it was an expensive lesson for my parents, paying for my university. Let me just cheers to that. Thanks, Mom, for paying for my uni. Yummy. Yeah. When you have type like this and you have one or two words hanging at the bottom, you don't want little, this for me feels like, you know those snaggle, like flyaway threads that you find on your sweater? It feels like that. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna open up the text box so that it looks good and neat, and also much more contained. Now there's a lot of eyeballing when it comes to typography as well. There's a lot of rules, but there's also a lot of eyeballing. And then finally, and as you can see, I've kind of avoided putting information down here at the very bottom, as I was telling you before. So if I wanted to move one element within a slide, but then you're worried about the fact that it loses consistency with the previous slides, all you need to do is click V again, which is for the move tool. This is the V, the top anchor thing. And then you click on the layer that you wanted to move, and then holding Shift down, Shift and Command down, you click on the other guy. So you're moving the two at the same time. So you can see both of things are moving. So we're just gonna jiggle those around. Yeah, that's it. All right, so that was easy, right? I just popped it in. Maybe start something more storytelling-y. Because it's a film-inspired story, what I'm gonna do is duplicate certain things so that it reminds you of a film. Film carousel. Okay, and then we're just gonna add like maybe some subtitles. That's what she said, dear. Okay, and the subtitles I mean, we can go with Helvetica Bold. They're usually like this like fluorescent red color, isn't it? Aren't they? Okay, 72, that's what she said, dear. Maybe it's too big. Okay, center align that. Yeah, here we go. That's such a Kanye thing to say. Are you serious? It's such a Michael thing to say. Michael from The Office. Now, as I'm going, I'm renaming my artboards. Wow, look what I just did here. Okay, I just did 01, 02, 03, 05. This is the extent of my intelligence today, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, now what should we do here on the 5th slide? I kind of want to transition from the 4th slide to the 5th slide so that it's, oh, okay, how about this? why have you parked like a woman? And this is not to be feminist. Yeah, it's not to be feminist. It's my life and I can do whatever I want. Done. Okay. Oh, how about this? I think it's time for a typography. Yeah, a little bit of typography. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna open up the second slide, which is here in artboards, this typo layer, and we're gonna do Command J again, or duplicate, and drag it all the way up to the latest layer, which is number 07. Congratulations, you can count. Now, by doing so, you don't need to look for your typeface again. You don't need to be typesetting all over again. You can keep the consistency of your branding within your stories. This is how you kind of make your process a little more efficient. Well, let's find a good quote. Okay, so this guy can be, maybe it'll be like this. So when you're on Creative Cloud, and again, I'm not paid for this, please pay me. I like using libraries. Now, I don't know if you know about libraries or if you use libraries before, but because I have a lot of projects going on, I have projects that are dating back to 2013. All of these, so for instance, if I go into Ferragamo, I have all the colors that we had to use for the season, and we have the logo, we have the typeface that was decided for that season's coverage. It's an easy method where you don't need to find your own logo or find the typefaces and all of this. You literally just need to click here, and I have all of these set up for myself. I have character styles, I have graphics, including my logo, and I literally just placed it. I just dragged it in, and I like losing my logo, but it's a little obnoxious on Instagram stories because you know whose stories you're watching. Well, maybe sometimes I don't, especially after this. I will not know whose stories I'm watching. Yep. I don't like this wine. For instance, I'm gonna duplicate this layer, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pop, let's see, maybe this guy on top, like that. And this will be an added user experience. When you click on this, the 8th tab, all you see is this photo popping up. And then what you can do is on the 9th tab, duplicate that and add this one in. And you're literally just building a collage. Look, see? Where can we put this? And then on the 10th slide, we'll just add another one. And I'm just doing this without really like much regard for design or anything, but you understand that this is like, it's a storyboard. You're taking someone through an experience. Okay, so the 11th one, I'm gonna delete all the layers and start afresh. Now, because we had a lot of black and white layers, I think it's time for color. And what's fun with Photoshop is you don't need to use just the entirety of the image. Like, if you were putting this together on Instagram, you might not actually think the fact that you can really enlarge this image to just focus on a detail. Right? You will also have Instagram native functionality that you're going to want to use. For instance, if you wanted to add a credit here, but you wanted to make the brands clickable, what I would do, for instance, sometimes is make like a nice box that is designed or maybe we could just do this. Nice box designed for the purpose of using Instagram features, and then just export it like this, so that when you go on Instagram, you can just use the Instagram native features and add in, I don't know, coat by whatever. Maybe we need to do it like this. Yeah, coat by whatever, bag by whoever, and then you can tag them, and the brands are tagged. So that's what she said live.ps. Okay, I suggest that you don't save it as a Photoshop file, which is a PSD. I suggest that you save it as large document format, which is a PSB. Now, if you zoom out, you'll just see your story progressing. If this is getting to be too wide and your monitor is not as big as my butt, then you're gonna wanna start pulling the artboards down, and all you need to do is again press on the move tool, which is V on your keyboard, and with your artboard selected in the layer panel, you move it down and just start right there. And this is sort of your canvas, so you know it looks infinite, but when you start zooming in, you would get a bit dizzy after a while. Yeah. So on slide 12, already we're getting into quite a long experience, but also depending on how you design, your user might be clicking faster than they would do in a different story. For instance, they would click through this much faster, knowing that there's something like this happening, because they'll want to get to the next slide. But if you load it up with a lot of text, then they're gonna want to stay and read it and things like that. So just understand, maybe don't put like a massive body of text after this experience of designing something that's meant for fast tapping. Is there something like magnetic option which keeps me aware of symmetry? I often struggle with that in PS. Yes, actually, if you downloaded PS 2020, it actually comes with an inbuilt sort of guide tool, if you can see. So if I have, for instance, this tool here, if I move it around, you'll see the purple things coming up, right? So this is definitely something you can use to keep symmetry. A lot of the times though, if you're working with photography and typography at the same time, it will be eyeballing. So even if this looks kind of centered, or even if the application says that it's centered, if it doesn't look centered to you, then you're gonna have to move it a little. Oh, this actually reminds me. Okay, cancel this, because we need to go back. Remember when I said that this artboard, when it's white, it's actually not white? I will show you an example. It's actually not white, it's transparent. And what I mean by that is if I just export this one file. Oh, no. Okay, I'll just export this one file in PNG, and I'll show you what it looks like. It's literally a transparent file. Can you see? It's a good lesson, because if you do want a transparent file, this is how you export it. But we don't want that, we want a white background. So we need to add a white background to every one of these slides that don't have a photo fully covering it. And what's good about artboards is that when you Command J, duplicate, and then put it in the second slide, it just ends up, you just have to reorder your layers so that, see, I should have done this like ages ago. So layers are like cake layers. Stuff that goes on the bottom in this order here is stuff that goes on the bottom. So these are, this rectangle is your graham cracker, and duplicate, you put it into a different cake batter. Yeah, it's at the very bottom. It's gonna be white. It's gonna export white, that is. And that's all the slides that have white as a background. Right, okay, now it's time to export. Here, there's a hamburger menu up here at the corner of the layer tab. Collapse all groups, and that'll neatly collapse everything. So click on number 1, hold down Shift, click on 12, that will select everything. And you go to File, Export, Artboards to Files. That's what she said, live, underscore, scroll. And decide, I like doing things on PNG, but you can do it on JPEG as well. And then you let it run. And things just happen like magic. Imagine if you had like 200-300 artboards. You don't want to be saving them manually, one by one. Or you do. Lifestyle choice, I guess. So if you go on desktop, it'll be here. It's all named, see? 01, 02, 03. And you can see, maybe this will be an experience. Here we go. So first slide, click, 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 click. I'm saying click, but it's a tap. So you're tapping, tap, tap, tapping. And then here's where you would use Instagram native functionality to add, like, maybe it's a sticker, or maybe it's maybe it's like a location tag. And then all you do is I just airdrop this to my phone, and that's it. That is the 101 to artboards. I will show you, however, I'll save this. I'll show you for literally 2 minutes how I make my mock-up for my Instagram grid. 700 by 700, click on artboards. Okay, let's make it black then. Sheesh. Okay, and what I do is I duplicate this twice, and that is your first row of your Instagram. Okay. Okay. Select 3, duplicate that. Oops. 3. Duplicate that. And you have 6. Select 6, duplicate that. You have 12. I can count. Congratulations. 12, duplicate that, is 200,000. See? So easy. You have just made your guide. Okay, I mean, let's just start adding things in. You just kind of play around with this. Yeah. So you can really practice your composition skills. Okay, so her thingy was pink. I don't know, pink lilies. Okay, let's find some fugly ass pink lily photo. Okay. Like that, and then maybe there's a, I don't know, maybe there's a architectural, element that goes here. We're just gonna find a landscape image to demonstrate this. Let's use this fantastic yet very fake looking image. And we're gonna close my boobs. Okay. Clicking on the artboard that you want to place one of the thing in. This is right. So kind of figure out where you want the left side to be, and then you want to Command J and duplicate this layer, or you can drag it down to the box with a plus on it. Yeah, and this layer needs to go to the next board, like this, right? Now, with the nature of artboards, it'll duplicate the placement, but you can just move this and it'll snap. Yeah, it snapped. So this is how. Yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm. Yep.